I'm Lynn Munson, president of Common Core. Common Core is a 5-year-old nonprofit organization that conducts research and engages in advocacy around keeping all of the liberal arts and sciences in public K-12 education. As of late, we've also started creating curriculum tools that are very comprehensive of core subjects and content-rich and based on the Common Core state standards. So lest there be any confusion, because sometimes there is, let me just say that we are not the creators of the Common Core state standards. We actually existed before the standards initiative got underway, but we are fans of the standards and we're happy to share them. Are here to really discuss a very serious matter, which is the implications of education devoid of science and of history and of art. The survey was sponsored by the Ford Foundation and the American Federation of Teachers, and I did want to share some highlights with you before we begin. When asked to describe how they spend their class time, 1,000 teachers surveyed nationwide really painted a very vivid picture of a classroom where reading and math skills take center stage like never before. 3/4 of teachers see other subjects getting short shrift. Top on the list, social studies, art, music, and foreign language being cut the most. The problem is serious across K through 12, but is acute in the elementary grades, where more than 80% of teachers say they have had to narrow the curriculum. 59% of elementary teachers singled out social studies as getting less time, and 46% of teachers say the same of science. So the question before us today really is, how can we use the levers of change available to educators right now to bring some of these key subjects back into the curriculum?
We have seen a tremendous narrowing of the curriculum in English classes as well. That across the nation, teachers say, I don't have time to teach this literature and literary nonfiction anymore. I don't have time for full novels. Why? Because the focus turns to behaviors that students need to perform on assessments. And what's wrong-headed about this is that with every fiber of my body, I know that the best preparation for any kind of assessment in reading is to read. And that students who read 20, 30, 40 books a year are probably going to have a pretty good vocabulary, understand complex syntax, and know what to do when they meet challenges in text. The same thing is happening in writing. Instead of having students experience the rich breadth of expression that the English language makes possible, we have students practicing formulaic, template-driven, simplistic, prompt-driven writing. Should the school year be longer? I mean, really, what 7th grader is going to tell you yes? But that's the kind of writing we're teaching students how to do, which results in students who hate to write. In English language arts needs to be inspire students to embrace for themselves a literate life. And that is only going to happen when we have students reading, digging in, grappling with big ideas and difficult questions that make them see that actually the classroom can be a meaningful place.
I looked at a lot of the survey statistics, and 2 of them, I think, jumped out at me. One was that 71% of high school teachers surveyed said that students will have read the Constitution by the time they graduate. My question is, but will they understand it? Yes. Another statistic, 92% of those teachers said students will know who fought whom in World War II. My question, but will they know why? And I think those are critical things, and I think that's the gist of what we're getting at here today. The effects of curriculum narrowing in elementary schools. I think it gives students a lack of a common background, knowledge, and vocabulary, and I think that's critical. Social studies is the foundation for contextual learning, and if they're not getting that, then they're not learning that.
Job, which is to talk to you about what the standards require in this area, because they do have clear requirements. This is not a matter of interpretation or negotiation. I come to you today with firm and strong news about what the standards demand, in terms of the widening of curriculum as the foundation of literacy. So, to be clear, it is non-negotiable that in kindergarten through 5th grade, half the time, half instructional time, and half the time on assessment is devoted to informational text, by which we mean text in history, social studies, science, and the arts. This is in the standards as adopted. This is a requirement for assessment and curriculum, and it is strongly urged that in that equal balance of literary study and informational text, there's a coherent development of knowledge within and across grades, period. There is, of course, the Common Core standards do not mandate or suggest a single curriculum, but they do have substantial implications for any curriculum or assessment that means to align with them. In this case, it is utterly clear if there is not an equal balance of high-quality informational and literary text in kindergarten through 5th grade, with this specific declaration that informational text richly covers science, history, social studies, and the arts, it does not meet the requirements of the core standards, either in assessment or curricular terms. What the research shows us is there is no way to learn how to read without the building of dense knowledge in early grades, which crucially drives vocabulary that is the heart of reading. That is, there is no such thing as doing the nuts and bolts of reading in kindergarten through 5th grade without coherently developing knowledge in science and history and the arts, period. It is false. It is a fiction, and that is why NAEP scores in early grades can improve slightly but collapse as students grow older, because it is the deep foundation in rich knowledge and vocabulary depth that allows you to access more complex text. So let's not get confused here that we're adding back nice things that are an addendum to literacy. We are adding the cornerstones of literacy, which are the foundations of knowledge that make the possibility of literacy happen. That, I may add, is a deep concern with the knowledge gained by literary study. So please do not be confused that knowledge only accrues through the informational areas of science and history, social studies, and the arts. It also emerges beautifully through the structure and patterns of stories, which are woven throughout the core standards in K through 5. So when we say that half the time is still devoted to the careful study of literature, we absolutely mean that. That is a command of being able to gain knowledge through text is essential. The reason we can't get forward in STEM is because kids can't handle the level of text and density that they need to pursue science. Simultaneously, we need to move the study of data in 6th or 8th grade from the math teachers' backs to the science teachers. It is an absurdity that math instruction handles data when mathematicians have no data. Science teachers have data. Tim Shanahan was recently looking at videotape of teachers teaching and found sometimes up to 80% of the time was spent on pre-reading. This is just fascinating to me. That is one other way to avoid reading is to constantly prepare to read and not to read. And dare I suggest that we flip that? Dare I suggest we dive in, perhaps, which is not to diminish the value of background knowledge, but to say, in the face of each text, let's get into it and learn what we can from it, and scaffold deliberately as we go. Scaffold syntax, go slower, chunk the text, move slower. These are not a single recipe, I want to be clear. But there's a lot we've got. And there's a lot of power in sharing a difficult text together with a wide range of students. And I just want to say one last thing about this. The student who is behind in a classroom of this sort will often see something that the advanced student has missed. When you read this way with a community of people, different people notice things that you didn't see. That can't happen if they're reading a simpler version in a separate group. It can only happen if we are reading together.